Hello and welcome to Week 10 of the Coach Hughes Show. As always, I'm joined by Minot State football head coach Tyler Hughes. Coach, you were coming off a tough loss against Bemidji State. The wind played a pretty big factor. You deferred the coin toss and they chose to go with the wind in the first half there. So that proved to be kind of the way the game went. How big of a factor was the wind for you guys?
It was a big factor. Just in our first few possessions, an interception, bad snap on a punt, a blocked punt. I mean, just a variety of what possibly could have gone wrong. But all that being said, as we went into halftime, we were trailing 15-7. It could have been much worse. So I think our guys did a nice job, weathering the storm, so to speak, and just kind of hanging in there. Got into the second quarter, drove down, like I said, cut it to a one-score game going into halftime. So I liked that our team hung with it, even though initially it was a potential for a little bit of a shell shock, but our guys responded okay, given everything. But again, the wind definitely was a huge factor early on.
There were a few moments in the first half where your team, especially on defense, showed some resiliency. They were put in bad situations, like you said, an interception and a blocked punt, but they held them to field goals. What does that say about your team's defense?
Well, they really responded, and that's what you're always looking for. I mean, your response is really what's most critical. Whatever happens, say the event, that's secondary. The response is most important, and so our players defensively really rallied around one another. They didn't worry about where the ball was placed. They didn't say, "Oh God, here we go. We have to play defense within our red zone first possession." They hung tough, and again, we were talking about how our team was able to keep it a one-score game going into the break. Of course, a large credit needs to go to our defense and holding it down and keeping the game competitive early on. So they did a lot of good things. Coach Larson and Coach Bradley did a nice job piecing together the game plan, giving our guys a chance to have success, and then our players went out and executed it.
Trevin Swenson and Aaron James. Trevin has 23 tackles in the last two games. Aaron James has 30 tackles in the last two games. So how important is that linebacker core for your defense? Obviously, they're the ones making the tackles and getting in after the guys. How important are they?
Well, they're very important to the team. They are guys who have a great work ethic in the weight room, in meetings, practice field. I mean, just everything that they do is high energy and with a purpose. And so their success comes with their preparation and their effort. And so they're a big part of our team. We've got some good guys up front, defensive line, that'll take up two blockers unselfishly. It'll free them up to make the plays, and they certainly make a lot of plays. And we're fortunate to have them. They're two of the better players, I think, in the whole conference. Even more so than even just on our team. I mean, they're two of the best guys, linebackers in the whole league.
Like you said, you were able to keep it a one-score game going into the half. A big part of that was that long offensive drive. I think I have here 16 plays, 80 yards, and just under 10 and a half minutes. How are you able to hold the ball for that long? I know you switched sides of the field, so the wind was to your back in the second quarter there. Was that a big part of it?
Yeah, that definitely contributed. I mean, we started moving the ball a little bit right before that quarter ended, and then continued on, to finish the drive. We had a number of third down conversions, both long and short yardage, and guys made some big plays. Anytime you have a 16-play drive, you have to have a lot of focus and intentness to what you're doing, both as a player and a coach. That was definitely one of our better drives that we've had throughout the season, productive and converted in some difficult situations. And our touchdown to close the drive was also on third down. So I believe there was 4 third down converts on that possession. So all in all, a very good drive.
Once again, that says a lot about your team. Turned the ball over a couple times there in the beginning, and then they were able to hold on to it for a full 10 and a half minutes. Again, that mental toughness that we've been talking about all season, they seem to be getting better at that as the season goes on. What are your thoughts on that drive?
Yeah, I mean, when you're, again, faced with third down over and over and over again, I mean, you got to be mentally tough and focused on what you have to do to be successful in that situation. Again, particularly when you get down to third down in the red zone, that's a very difficult spot to be in because you don't have the field to work with. You know how many yards you need to get. But really, that's a favorable situation for a defense given the field parameters that you're playing within. So our guys did a nice job on that. Mental toughness is something we talk about often and something we need to continue to improve and get better with. Mental toughness is really doing what you need to do when it's not comfortable. And we're getting better that way. We could certainly do more, but we're getting better.
You have Crookston coming up this week. They have yet to get a win this season. Does that give your team confidence? Are you guys a little wary? You don't want to get too confident and overlook your opponent. What's it like going in? Are your players pretty confident? Coaches confident? What's the level like there?
Well, I mean, they've had a difficult season, but so have we. So if our guys are overconfident, I would be disappointed in that. I mean, we need to prepare just like we've prepared for other games. We need to be focused on it. I mean, they have good players, they have good coaches. I mean, we can't go into it thinking like, okay, this is one we should get, because we should go into every game with that feeling like this is one that we should get. I mean, and if we don't have that mentality in our program, there's something wrong. We need to get to that point, and we need to feel that way. So, again, Crookston, they've got some good players, they've got some good coaches. I think their head coach is a really good guy, and we just have to do our job in preparation, players and coaches included, and get ourselves ready to play on Saturday and give us the best chance to win on Saturday.
Despite being down often in the season, they're kind of like the way we play. They have a balanced attack. They have 299 rushing attempts, 307 passing attempts. How do you go about defending a team like that that's so balanced?
Well, I think it just goes back to, for players, you go back to fundamentals and concepts. One thing that we've talked about as coaches that our players need to do more of is understand conceptually what we're trying to do, as opposed to rule-based football. So what I mean by that is, if you have a guy who, as a player, he just says, if they run this play, this is exactly what I'm supposed to do. That's fine, but not every team is going to run it exactly the way it's drawn up, and they're going to have adjustments and variations week to week. So as players, you need to understand conceptually what's going on and play in that fashion, as opposed to, if they do option A, then this is how I respond. I mean, I just don't think the game is that robotic. So, so to your question, playing against a balanced attack, the keys, reads, fundamentals, understanding conceptually what we're trying to get done on defense, understanding conceptually what they're trying to get done on offense, and that gives you the best chance to be successful against that type of team.
They've allowed 317 yards on average against their opponents for rushing. So going into the game, you have to think that you can be able to establish the run game. And you've said it a couple times this season that you like to establish that run game to get other parts of the game going. How important is that going to be going into this game?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's something that we always would like to do. And I mean, right now we have our own challenges in terms of our run game. We've got a couple more injuries on the offensive line that we hadn't had. So we've got to piece things together and give our guys a game plan so they can go out and execute. Got to stay on blocks, got to work double teams. I mean, all those things. Running backs need to see whatever yardage is available and get it, rather than trying to generate a big play and then getting us into a negative down and distance situation. So it's something we definitely would like to do, is run the ball. That's how it is every week for us. We want to do it this week for sure.
Like I said, they've allowed over 300 yards rushing, and going into games, they know that teams are going to try and run the ball against them, and you know that they know that you're going to try and run the ball against them. Is it more of a checkers match then, or is it just whoever has the best push up front is going to win the game, or is it still kind of a chess and strategy game for you guys?
I think it's a combination of factors. I mean, you have on one hand, you just have players that got to go out and play. That's ultimately the most important thing, is players make plays. But then as coaches, for us and for them, you'd have to have a scheme that allows your players to have some success. And so, again, that's a combination, but ultimately what you want is you want to have a sound scheme and the guys that understand the concept. So whatever front or blitz or pressure or movement that team presents, our guys understand the concepts enough to be able to make adjustments and go play and play fast. What we're looking for is our players, again, to make plays. We need them to do that. They need to step up to that challenge in terms of the blocking, the running, everything this week.
And finally, going into the game, it's the second last game of the season. What's kind of your message to the team going into this game? Like you said, you've had a rough go at it as well as they have. What's kind of the message that you want to send this week?
Well, the message is that not everybody gets to play college football, and not everybody gets to coach college football. It's a real fortunate circumstance that we're in, and while the season hasn't gone the way that we've wanted it to go, we're very fortunate to be able to do what we're doing. And for our players, that they need to understand that there's only 2 more left this season. That's it. And for our seniors, that's it for good. For all the underclassmen, that's two more in their career and two less that they'll be able to play going forward. So you need to take advantage of the opportunity and treat it like it's a special opportunity, because it is. And then, again, I mean, you tie into this week to week, your preparation and all those things, try to keep you guys focused and not try to get too up, too down. But again, ultimately, guys just need to recognize the plain and simple truth that we're really fortunate to do what we're doing, and we need to treat it that way.
Well, Coach, thanks for the preview. We look forward to watching you guys against Minnesota Crookston. You're traveling to Crookston, and that game will kick off at 1 p.m.